Welcome back to the cheap seats once again, and we welcome back to Tripod Coach Cox, Coach Varley. How are you guys today?
What's up, Shep? Varley? How y'all?
Good day.
Hey, man.
Man, I don't know.
feet.
It's always good.
Yeah, hey. I'll tell you what, anytime you can get away and get some time to talk about the game, you can't complain about that, even if you are in the middle of the sticks, right, Varley?
9,300 feet, baby.
Denver who?
Yeah, no, nothing.
Yeah, so today, guys, let's talk about this transfer portal a little bit. Obviously, it's gone off the deep end here. Just looking a little bit as of June 30th, there were out of the SEC alone, there were 80 players, with Missouri having 19 of those 80 players in the transfer portal at one time. Several of the other programs had 6. I think the average throughout the programs were 4. That's just the SEC. I know at one time there was over 2,000, I think 2,400 players at one time. So let's talk about this transfer portal a little bit today and kind of just go from there. What do you guys got on that?
I think for me, the big thing is it's taken that grit and kind of want to out of a lot of young athletes. When the cards are stacked against you, we're teaching young men to just abort mission if everything's not going right. And that's a huge problem because, we talk about it as coaches all the time. We're not just teaching baseball. We're teaching life skills. And I mean, all three of us and a lot of, guys that we've worked under and been around, we talk about how, turning them into young men is the most important thing. The baseball kind of takes care of itself. And to me, what lesson are we teaching? What lesson are we teaching these guys? It's like, okay, well, guess what? Your boss gave you an assignment you don't like. It's okay to just quit and go somewhere else. And it bothers me. That part of it really, really bothers me when kids are leaving for the wrong reasons just because something doesn't seem fair or the coach just doesn't like me. I don't like it.
I think that speaks to a lot of, how society allows, kids to just bounce back and forth from one thing to another. I think we see that in the job force. So I don't like this job. I'm just going to quit and go work here, not understanding that looking at your resume down the road, well, you worked at 23 places in 23 months. And then the list of excuses follows. But, I definitely think that's a big thing. Coach?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. And where it's coming from, travel baseball. I mean, these kids are growing up. They're able to switch a team mid-season, mid-travel ball, summer, and go to 3 different teams. And we're saying that it's okay that the dad will start his own team when his kid's not starting, instead of trying to get that position. And it's blown up and we saw it coming. And then another part of it is, committing 100 kids, for one school, and then where are they going to go? So they're not doing their part either on that, So everybody in the baseball world now is the loyalty's gone. And I'm almost thinking, I don't even think we can hold it against them anymore, when you're recruiting a guy, because people are doing it to them on that level and they're doing it from a younger age. So, I mean, what are we creating? It's not good at all.
Absolutely. The whole recruiting portal thing, I mean, the grass is always greener on the other side. I'm going to leave. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. And, like Coach Varley said, instead of fighting myself into a starting position or finding more playing time, I'm not playing. So I'm just going to leave. And you think you're just going to roll in and go play somewhere else. I'll tell you what a great time to be a junior college coach right now. I mean, those dudes are like trolling for walleyes, it's out there and these guys are entering the portal and they're just sitting there waiting for this opportunity to come. And cause those guys, being at the junior college level, it's like, hey, you'll play, you'll play here. You will come in. We have an opening at this spot. You will come in. You will play here. You're going to get time to play. You're going to get to do things you want to do. So in a sense, where it does feed the problem a little bit. But what are some of the positive things with the transfer portal? And then we'll circle back around to where the SEC is at and some of the numbers we just talked about. What are some of the positive things that are coming out of this?
I think some of the things that we've seen, at least with, some of the guys that I'm around, they've gone to places where, as coaches, as advisors, whatever you want to call us in that recruiting area, the kid goes to a school and you just know, like, but you don't tell them. It's like, you're gonna be miserable there. But if you're doing it the right way, you don't ever tell a kid where to go, where not
Their
to go.
choice.
It's their decision, and you just support them and bite your tongue. It's kind of nice when the kid goes to the wrong spot and says, wow, I'm miserable here. Either it's too big or he just wasn't ready. They do have that opportunity to say, okay, let's look somewhere, maybe a mid-major, maybe something a little bit smaller, coaches that are more geared towards my development, as opposed to, because there's a lot of coaches that have the luxury, because they win all the time, that they just go get the best dudes. And, you have that kid that signs and it's like, dude, have you looked at their roster? Their middle infielders are both sophomores and they hit 2-3 in the lineup. You're going to set for 2 years, but they don't want to hear that. They don't care. And I think it's making a lot of guys realize, like you just hit on it, the importance and kids' need for the JUCO level to develop for those 2, sometimes even 3 years. I think it's allowed us more than anything to have a little more input without making a choice for a kid on, hey, you might want to think about this, because here's what's laying in front of you. This is what you're going to compete with at 18 years old. And these guys have been doing it for, some guys are going to be 25, 26 now, and not because they suck at school like I did. They're there because they got that free year. So, I think it makes our job a little bit easier, because, we can kind of gear guys a little bit more, because it is such a log jam at that level, and guys are transferring out and coaches are going and getting other dudes that have already been at the big schools. So I don't know. To me, it's hard to just see positive when you can wrap a negative in there too.
Yeah. The positive part of it is, from my aspect, is that, a kid makes a mistake. It happens. And I think you alluded to that at the beginning. The kid makes a mistake. You get into a program, you just don't mess with the coach. And it's kind of a mutual, this isn't going to work out. I can go somewhere else, where even if it was a mutual thing before, it was still a big process to go somewhere, that kind of thing. Now, at least they can just go. They can make that transition. A lot of coaches don't want to let go of the kid, even if they don't get along. If the kid's pretty talented, you don't want that kid to leave. But this at least gives that player a little bit of an escape to get away. But that's one of the only positives I see out of this, Alan.
Yeah, same thing. We lived in a world about a year ago where, being happy and being around family, and it was way more important than what we were doing. And when you're unhappy, and that's where I go with it. Like, hey, man, I have my own kids, and they're graduated and they're going into the real world. And I even tell them now, hey, if it's something you can't handle and it's something you're not happy, go find another job. And so we create that kind of atmosphere too. And I'm doing it myself. So maybe it's not a good fit, and we made a mistake, and you want to be happy. And you shouldn't live another day, being unhappy. And if you're unhappy, then that gives them a chance to go that way. So I'm torn on the negative part of it. And maybe it's not a playing time issue, and maybe they have worked hard, and it just, like you said, Barley, it doesn't mesh with the coach, or, I need to go back home for a family emergency. There's so many more variables that go into it, but we automatically think the kid isn't, I'm not playing, so I'm leaving. And that's the only thing we talk about. But there is a lot of different variables. So that's where I'm at with the positive side of it.
I sit and I think back to, my time at Northeastern, and I was pretty hard on guys. And I think if that were the transfer portal atmosphere, there'd have been so many of those guys. And it's guys that later on thank you for being hard on them, right? That are like, Coach, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. And thank you for being tough on me. But at the time, a lot of those guys would have jumped ship. They would have wanted to go somewhere else where things were easier, and things were, everybody was going to pat them on the butt and tell them they were doing a good job. And I think that this whole thing could possibly take that aspect, the Augie Garrido type of guys, that were hard on those dudes and things. I think we might lose a little bit of that aspect of coaching down the road. And it's going to take a little bit of that. We talked at the beginning about turning these guys into men. Like, our job is to not just make them good baseball players, but to make them good people and men and learn about life. Do you guys think that this is going to take a little bit of that away from what coaches are able to do?
I think 100%. And I think, kind of piggybacking off of what Alan was kind of talking about, like when you're dealing with your own kids, and, we're seeing a lot more, especially after the last year. I think it's been brought to light, the mental stress that's put on kids. I know I saw it in my own house with the older one, being away from school and all those things. I think that as coaches, we need to identify when a kid is just flat out miserable and unhappy. I think what's gonna stress more than anything is finding that line of, okay, is this just having a bad day, or is there something going on with him? Because that's something that, 15, 20 years ago wasn't dealt with at all. I mean, it was, well, suck it up and grind through it. Well, we know now that, okay, there's some pretty bad stuff can happen. And we've seen it happen in college baseball. We've seen it happen at the Division I level, at every level, kids taking their own lives and stuff like that. I think that's where, as coaches, everybody needs to do a better job of saying, okay, if this kid's unhappy, and, like you were talking about, Shep, coaches don't want to let a kid go. Why keep a kid that's miserable? I don't care how good he is. I don't care if he hits 450 with 30 pumps. If he's miserable and you're flirting with that line of, what, this kid could do, something bad could come out of this. You got to do what's right by the kid. And I think, I don't know if we're going to ever be able to be those Augie Garrido types, or like we were 10 years ago. I don't see that ever being a possibility anymore. I think you got to handle guys a little bit more with kid gloves and identify the guys that, what, this kid I can get into a little bit and he's going to respond well. But for the most part, I don't see that changing.
I think, right off of what you said, I think a lot of it transfers more from, we pounded the physical part, and we didn't pay as much attention to the mental part. I think what you're saying too is how we're going to have to do that is we're going to have to pay a lot more attention to the mental part of it and their mental well-being, and, bringing that aspect of it into, I know through All Sport, we have Alexia, who's our mental coach. And she talks to a lot of the clients about stress and things like that, and how to handle stress and how to manage your school and your games and your girlfriends and all that stuff, and through COVID and all those type of things. But I think you're right. And if you aren't able to do that, you need to have somebody on your staff or find them somebody that's going to be able to keep that avenue on. And I think that might narrow the lane for a lot of these players. That's a great point, Alan.
Yeah. I think the coach today has to be a little bit more aware of mental health. It's here, and it was there back when we were playing too. We were we're supposed to be men, and we're supposed to be tough. And, I'm sure you guys sat around in your room and cried and wanted to go home as well. But, you had to be tough, so you couldn't let anybody see you. When, these coaches today, we can still be disciplined in the baseball field. We don't ever have to change that part of it, but we have to understand when practice is over, we might have to, sit a kid down and see what's going on with them. There's a lot going on and in the world. And like I said, we want to be happy every day, man, so there's those coaches that, I think they were like that before. I had some hard coaches I played for, but, behind closed doors, we had some talks and they helped me a lot through that. But I think a lot of kids weren't able to do that, and maybe just didn't come out with it, where a lot of kids today are allowed to be free and think freely. And, and that's what's helping this world grow too, is that freedom, even in the classroom. We're able to be different people than we were. So I the world's changing. We better change with it, but mental health is real, and we better address it. And, the coaches, like you said, I think I think they're getting out of the game now anyways, but that's what it was back then. That's what we were taught. But we're learning at ABCA, and we're learning from these different places that, hey, it's time to, and I say it all the time. And I mean, if you're old school, then you're no school. I don't disrespect the old school guys, but you better get with the times,
Yeah. The game will push you out. We saw that happen to a lot of people over the years, and I think that's a great point. You can still be disciplined on the field. You just have to change your approach to things, and then be there for when they need you. Have that open door policy. They can come and talk to you, and what you said about the guys changing. I really noticed that a lot from when I first started at Northeastern to the end. Guys were scared to come in and talk to you because you were the one pounding that, manhood into them and stuff. And a lot of times you're the only person as their coach that they had to do that. And then I think as time progressed, and I think Varley, you saw with your time up there too, that guys were a little more willing to come in and sit down. And once they realized that you'll listen to them, because we all care about them, the old school, the hard guys, they all care about their players, probably more so than anybody. It's just the ability to flip that switch when you need to lend an ear to that player and those kind of things. That's great. That's good stuff. So let's turn this around a little bit and go back to the SEC and talk a little bit about those numbers. The 80 players that we saw enter into that, the 19 leaving Mizzou. Man, that's a lot of guys on the exit ramp right there. We talked about some of the reasons why we think some of these guys are doing these things, but what do you guys see when you see 80 players coming out of the SEC? Is it over recruiting? Is it just guys not happy, not getting to play, false promises? What do you guys see? And what's your opinions on that?
Yeah, I think it's all the things that you just said. I really do. I think it's all the things you just said. Over recruiting, promises, the kid's finding that he can go somewhere else and play. And when you open up stuff like that at the beginning, it's going to be filled, they're going to fill that up. It's going to be the new hot thing. So, and it's just like it all started, but yeah, it's everything you just said to me. I personally think that. I'm not in there, so I don't know the real answer. Some of those other guys that are in the trenches there might be able to answer that a little better, but I think you hit it right on the head.
Varley?
I'm with him. There's some insider information, but I'm not going to share for certain places. But with Missouri, and I didn't follow the SEC very well. We were pretty busy this spring over at Doane, so they were bottom of the SEC, right?
Yeah.
That in their particular instance, I think a lot of them, and I'd have to see what guys are leaving or whatever. I have a really good feeling that being on a club that's not winning a lot and having this new opportunity to just jump ship, in their instance, that would be my guess. I don't know, but I think a lot of it is all the points that you hit on as well. So I don't know.
So when we go back and talk about like the over recruiting, and you tell these 18-year-old kids, I'm an SEC school. Do you want to come and play for me? Parents are lined up at the coffee shop, so they can't get to the coffee shop fast enough to tell their coffee buddies that my son just signed to play at the SEC level, or Division I level in the SEC. And the kids, they go on these recruiting trips. Bright lights, here's all the gear we get, here's your clubhouse, here's where we play, here's how we travel, here's wherever we go, and we're sitting in the junior college level, and we're like, hey, we got 4 bats and a batting cage, and non-saggy ones, but we have all this stuff here, and so how are they supposed to not jump into that? You can't really blame the kid, but at what point do we put blame on some of these coaches, not necessarily SEC, just coaches in general, for putting these kids in that position? Are we putting these kids in a bad spot?
I don't think so. I do in a little bit, but at the same time, if you're doing it, I got to do it to compete. My job's on the line. I'm trying to do what I need to do. I'm probably going to do the same thing, but I'm going to get these guys who maybe, you know, they probably really believe they could come there and play, but they have to do it so early. They don't really know. Right.
Yeah.
But if I can't get the guy in my city, in my hometown, and he goes somewhere else, then I'm going to hear it from, you know, my AD and how do we lose the best player in the area? So, you know, and more schools do it. You know, there's some that do it way more than the others, but I'm sure they're just trying to compete and stay with the times. And if they're doing it, I got to do it to, you know, to keep my job. But, you know, and I don't blame the kids, because, you know, who doesn't want to go play on that big stage? I mean, you've been there. From the nutrition part of it, that's where I think kids should stick around. I think it's the opposite. Once you're in there and you can stay, man, I've seen guys turn from no playing time to, you know, the best player in the country in those big programs. You've got the best of everything you need there. I have a problem when guys leave those places to go play. You know, I just don't see how you're going to go get a better shot at if you want to go to the next level. That I'm very partial to those big schools, because I've seen players that have came through there and didn't play at the beginning, but by the end of it, you know, they were right where they needed to be and drafted and playing professionally, and it's everything they were promised.
They're some of the best developmental people in baseball, are supposed to be. So why would you leave there and go play somewhere else when you could, you know, they want to be on the field too. So there's kind of a catch-22 there a little bit, but you know, absolutely. The kids are like, I'm in, let's go. Yeah. And yes, that makes it tough, Varley.
But when they dump them, sorry, Varley, but when they dump them in the last minute and they have nowhere to go, then that's the problem that I have. So
that's what I think we're seeing a lot of is, oh yeah, well, hey, thanks for coming this year. We're going to redshirt you, and yeah, you're not going to make the roster next year. And then all of a sudden they're back to square one. So
I think for me, just, you know, you guys both kind of hit on it. If I'm able to do it, I'm going to do it. You know, I have to, because I have people to answer to, you know, especially the recruiting coordinators. At that level, you can't miss. If you miss, guess what? You're going to be back in the JUCO realm with us, with all the us yahoos that have to grind every day. I mean, they can't miss. And, you know, all these years, and Shep, if you remember, we were both in Colorado when it kind of started to become a trend on the Front Range, where we were seeing kids, you know, 8th graders, 9th graders, committing to these schools, and we'd seen them play. It's like, really? Like you're trying to look into a crystal ball as a recruiter, say, okay, well, he's got 4 years to develop, so I'm just going to sit back and watch. In my opinion, if they're allowed to commit these kids, the NCAA has to hold them accountable. Like, you can't just, that's such a, to me, it's borderline disgusting that you got this kid that's coming to your school for all these years, and then fall of his senior year, yeah, guess what? We don't want you. That's trash, man. You just ruined 3 years of that kid. And, you know, as a 13, essentially 13-year-old kid, because 8th graders are committing now. As a 13-year-old kid, I know that I'm going to X big school in the SEC, ACC, wherever it is. Am I going to still work as hard? Maybe. Some of them do, and I'm not saying all of them, but I might take a break and not work as hard because I'm already committed. I don't have anything to do. You know, of all these kids that we've seen, and you guys both know exactly who I'm talking about, I've literally seen one kid that I'm comfortable that he's committed coming out of his 8th grade year. And we all know
at the right place. And he's at the right place.
100%. If anybody follows my Twitter, they know exactly who I'm talking about. The kid's a freak, and there's no question. But the rest of them, I've seen some of these kids that are committed, and I'm just scratching my head going, what do you see? What do you see there? I don't understand it.
Guys are being committed because their dad's 6'7", you know, or 6'6", and looks good, and the kid might be that big. But I just heard a story of a kid that just graduated this last year, was committed to a Division I school, one of them that's going from the Big 12 to the SEC at a later date. And the kid said, or the school said, sorry, we don't need you anymore.
How?
After his senior year. Sorry. We're going a different direction. You know, and at that point, you've already told all these other schools to pound sand.
Well, and the thing that bothers me too is, and you know, we never liked it, and I know being around high school kids now, I tell anybody that I'm involved with that I'm not for it. How many kids now are going to do I'm going to sign at a JUCO, at an NAIA, and at an NCAA, and then last minute I'm going to tell who's who where I'm going. I think that this has opened that up big time. And that makes it tough on the JUCO guys. It's like, well, I got this kid, but he's also committed to this Power 5 school. Hopefully I get him. You know, how long before the JUCO guys say, you know what, you're going to sign both. You clearly don't want to be here 100%. So if you end up here, are you going to be miserable and pissed off because you're not at your big school? Me personally, I don't want you. I want to be here.
Yeah, Iowa Western does that already. They don't allow you to double commit.
Nope.
And, you know, these guys work so hard, and they're out there and just grinding all the time. And it's just you know, I was down at PBR last week, and there was 300 of them out there just looking, just all over the place, and they work their butts off, you know. And so I feel bad for them sometimes. But yeah, I mean, I don't, because I'll take their job in a second if they would let me have it. But
well, it is hard. You go sign a kid, and we had a kid. What was that? 2013. We had a big left-handed pitcher, left-handed first baseman, hitter, signed, committed. Already told a big school, big Division I school no. And 2 weeks before school starts, the coach lies to the kid, tells him he's talked to us as a staff that he's okay if we come and visit. Kid goes on a visit and signs and calls and tells me, and I hadn't even heard. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, the coach said that he talked to you. I'm like, no, he didn't talk to me, and there's stuff like that goes on. And unfortunately it takes one incident like that, and it just spoils your taste for some of the other stuff, makes you hard to trust that when you're out pounding the pavement to try to sign guys and get guys in. And, he could have easily earlier in the summer said, I'm going to commit to them and sign with you, and then I'll make a decision later. But, you can't, with the money we gave that kid, we couldn't sit on him. We needed to go find somebody else, and we couldn't replace him going into 2013. And I'll tell you what, if we would have had him, that's a World Series year for us. We won Region 9 that year, and we were what, hosted the district tournament. And I mean, if we'd have had him, that's a different story.
The difference is, like I think Varley touched on it, NCAA has to start making these guys offer money. Put money on the line when you're committing these kids, and then that stuff will stop.
Yeah, absolutely. The accountability of, you commit me when I'm 15, there's going to be some stuff there.
Yeah.
Well, it's free for them. Why would you not? If you're in their shoes, why would you not commit? This kid's already 86 as a 14-year-old. Why would you not commit that kid? He's 6'3". Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Like you hit on it earlier. Because if that kid leaves Georgia and goes to the University of Florida and is a stud, AD's in the office going, hey, tell me about Junior over here. What happened?
He grew up.
We didn't buy him a tractor.
He grew up 6 blocks from the field. Why is he not here?
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. What guys, so this transfer portal, what are we going to see? I mean, the JUCOs are obviously reaping the benefit. Are the non-Power 5 schools, the smaller Division Is and mid-majors, are they starting to reap some of the benefits of this, or Division II level? What do you guys see happening? NAIA, what do you guys see happening from this whole transfer portal? Because there's still a bunch of people in there, and it's, last I checked, schools, a couple Mondays out.
Remember, I talked about the gap year schools a couple times ago when we were on here. I said they're about to blow up, and you're starting to see them pop up all over the place, and it's not a bad thing for the high school guys. They don't have a place to go, because if I'm a JUCO guy, like you guys know, you're going to go get that D1 guy or not D1 because they can't come back, but all those transfer guys are going to go to the school. I know Georgia Gwinnett's going to benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee that, because that's going to be one of the first schools they want to go to, and all the schools that win World Series. Why wouldn't you go? And a lot of guys are graduated that are, sometimes in that portal, and they're like, well, I just want to go get my degree at a big school and maybe have a chance to play Division I. And so they start jumping in the portal as well. So yeah, I think you're going to see it even out a little bit. Some guys are going to decide, well, I'm just done with baseball, because you're right. It's school starts here soon. And if you ain't got a place to go, then I think a lot of guys are just going to hang it up.
Yeah. What do you think, Varley? You think they're going to filter down the chain?
I think we already kind of are seeing that trend, like just watching some of the area Nebraska guys that are going to NAIA schools. Like I was impressed watching the NAIA World Series this year, the amount of velo that was there. Like, I mean, even when we all played or we were around it or whatever, everybody always had, unless you were at my school, everybody had, those couple, 2, maybe 3 upper 8, low 9 guys. They just kept pumping them in, and dudes with command with 2 and 3 plus off speed pitches. I'm sitting there going, okay, this is a little different. I mean, we were lucky when I started coaching that we had a couple of guys come in that ended up being draft picks that were high velo guys. But after that, it was, let's run 9 guys out that are 82 to 84, and then 3 guys behind them that are 77 with a wrinkle. I mean, that's what it was. Even the powerhouses, like we played in Bellevue's conference, and they had 3 arms that were plus guys, but then after that they just had those mid to upper 86, 87 guys with a wrinkle that could just locate. Now you're seeing staffs full. I mean, they've got dudes in the bullpen that are 93, 94. They don't have a clue where it's going. That's why they're in the bullpen right now, but they're going to figure it out. So I think it's already trending that way. I think that I don't know. I'm anxious to see what this whole transfer portal thing does, just because, like you both said, the lack of loyalty is really starting to take effect. And that bothers me, because that's something that I think we all pride ourselves on. We've been in programs that pride ourselves on that. I mean, I don't know. Baseball's weird right now. Kind of makes your stomach curl a little bit, but hopefully 3 to 5 years, we start kind of leveling back out. Hopefully the NCAA sees some of the negative in the transfer portal area, and they say, okay, maybe we need to get a hand on this and kind of dial it back in a little bit, but we'll see, to be determined.
What do you guys think the COVID numbers? I think the COVID numbers are playing a big part of this whole thing here. I mean, all the guys getting their free years back, and guys, hell yeah, I'm playing for another year. Hey, mom, dad, Van Wilder, baby, let's go. Back for year 8. Let's go. Double major, PE and recreation. I think those numbers are, and then the incoming freshmen, we're just starting to see, it's like bass boats on a lake during a tournament. There's just this things everywhere, and guys looking for players because they know all this. And, JUCO guys know how many guys these Division I rosters have. And that's, there's a couple of schools like Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin did with their programs. They didn't let their athletes have that extra year. They just said, we're not going to honor it. You're out. You graduated. See you later. To allow, so they didn't have this backup. Some schools are allowing for more scholarship money, expanded rosters, that kind of thing. So we're seeing a lot of that. But I think COVID has a lot to do with this portal's numbers. I still think, the negativity aspect of it is going to be there for the non-loyalty, and I'm leaving this thing. But I think the large numbers are due to incoming freshmen, seniors, juniors coming back. And we're going to see that for 2 or 3 years down the road.
Heck yeah, start that JV team. The administration's really going to like these guys here soon.
Yeah. The club teams.
Oh, yeah.
If it's the right administration, some administrations don't acknowledge the fact that baseball brings in a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm sure we can get into a whole nother topic there.
Boom roasted. Facts.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of variables to it, and so if you're a player, leaving a Division I program right now, you're sitting in the transfer portal. It's August 9th, whatever it is. What's going through your head? What advice do you give that player sitting there right now? With
Mom, are you okay if I keep my room in the basement? Because I don't know what's going on.
Get into coaching.
What's that?
Time to coach.
Time to, hey,
Yes.
I'm saying, listen, if you can't go back to your current school, you have no other where to go. Cause I think a lot of these kids honestly thought that their phones would ring off the hook.
Oh yeah.
And they didn't understand that, even the Division II schools and things that were recruiting you before, they're full. They've got the same issues. Man, give those JUCOs a call. Give those JUCOs a call. I saw a guy post on Twitter the other day. I've got 7 Division I transfers coming back with what we got. We're loaded. Let's go. Can't wait for this season. JUCO guys are doing sets of excitement, jumping jacks all over the country, man. They are fired up right now. It's like the bass boats I was talking about all over the lake waiting for players. Got one. It's all over the place. But, there's a lot of good – if you do it right, there's a lot of good players that can come out of that.
Yep. I'm just baffled that there's still, we've always talked about it. There's still kids, no matter how many times you tell them, dude, the D1s are not coming. It's just not happening. They're log jammed right now. If that's your dream and that's the level you want to be at, Alan's gone.
And he's gone.
He just got ghosted. He just got ghosted.
Yeah. Continue.
But it's just, guys, if that's the dream, you're going to have to go the JUCO route. And they just still can't wrap their brain around it.
Yeah.
So,
some of the guys we're working with, right now, and things are very realistic. And I love the fact that they understand the whole process, what's going on with COVID and all the other things, and that these guys are just backed up and they're sophomores going into their junior year. But I'm working with a couple of guys that are older and have Division I talent. And it's just those rosters are full. And man, it's really a tough spot for them and their parents to look at your kid who's worked so hard their whole life to get to this, and you've reached the goals you want to get to, and these rosters are full. It's very tough, but it's unfortunately the times we're in, and that's just where we're at. So, and we got Alan Cox back. Here he is. He's back.
Just in time to shut it down.
Checked out. So we were just talking about, the kids, finding a place to go. We got about 1 minute left here, but, kids understanding coming out of the recruiting process right now, understanding that rosters are full, and kids that just graduated or are juniors, sophomores in high school, what they should be looking for in the future.
Yeah, like I said before, we used to say there's a place for you, if you want to play baseball. And now I don't know if that's true. I really think, you're really going to have to search and see. And, but these gap year schools might be the only way to do it. Take a year off to it and get stronger. And, hopefully they get into some technology so they're not like me, not knowing how to get on a Zoom call. But there's a lot of jobs out there in the world of baseball. And I think, I don't know. I'm really worried about them now. I used to be a big advocate of there's a place for you, and now I'm a little worried for that.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. All right, well, we're out of time here. Appreciate you guys coming on today, and we'll look forward to the next one. Thanks, guys.
Take care, fellas.
See ya.